Oliver, let's start with you. You were definitely one of MAVA's biggest and strongest allies concerning the green economy. Briefly tell us how you became involved.
Okay, so firstly, it's a privilege to be here because MAVA is a pioneer, and we should celebrate the work they did. You say that it's unusual or it's normal to think of economy and nature together. It isn't. 10 years ago, a few people were in the conservation movement were struggling with the scale of the challenges. They're so big: climate change, biodiversity loss, environmental breakdown. What is big enough as a commensurate response to that massive challenge? And whisper it slowly, carefully, sustainable economy. But who was brave enough to step into that space? Well, MAVA were, the Green Economy Coalition were, and a handful of others. And here we are a decade later, and we've created a global program, a global organization, and we've helped the movement. So it's extraordinarily brave, pioneering, but we did it together.
Now, Holger, you've been with MAVA for 17 years, which means that you are the longest serving employee of MAVA. You know MAVA under Luc and MAVA under André, which means, again, that you had to switch gears fast enough to have a more economic approach. Oliver here was telling me that you were spot on with each investment you made. Can you tell us a bit about them?
Well, first of all, thank you very much to remind me that my colleagues call me the MAVA dinosaur. But more to your question. Yeah, there was this time when André took over and we wanted to do more of economics. And we had the room and the time to actually go out and learn about it, experiment. What does that mean, investing in economic change? And it took us maybe 2 to 3 years to really hone down on what I would say 3 issues that really matter. That the first is getting nature into economic thinking and planning. And out of that came that whole work on natural capital-based green economies that Oliver was greatly involved in. The second thing was that finance really matters. And you need to find ways of how to actually create revenue streams from and for intact nature. And that's a whole work that led into financing for nature. And the third point is we needed to deal with the resources use. And circular economy was the idea out there at the time. And I think it gives us a very good manual how to actually reduce or design out waste and wastefulness. So the 3 things we did.
All right. Any thoughts, Oliver, on how MAVA became a key piece of the puzzle on the sustainable economy movement we see today?
Well, look, I mean, a decade ago, it was a concept, an idea, a sustainable economy, a small idea, only held by a few people. And if you scan forward now, we've just had the Americans produce their what's called Inflation Reduction Act, their big green economy idea. We've got the European Union with their Green Deal. We've got the Chinese with their eco-civilization. So the big economic blocks have got policies, and there's about 5 trillion of public money in play. And usually that catalyzes at least 3 times that amount of private money. So this idea is off and running, and it has gone from concept to reality in just over a decade. And we are seeing the emergence of a sustainable economy. We've still got distance to go, but we've managed to carry this idea over the valley of death from concept to reality. And that's partly the legacy of MAVA.
Okay, but because MAVA was also part of many policy-making initiatives, right? It was behind the Green Deal, the European Green Deal, the Inflation Reduction Act, correct?
Well, we all contributed to creating that policy framework. So I think that what's important is that the idea was no longer a sort of extreme idea. It became a more mainstream idea. And lots of people have had a contribution, but really what's brave is to step in when something's a concept and it seems so, change the whole economy within a generation. Who's going to back that? Somebody really brave and somebody who's playing for the long game, who's really committed to the agenda. So that's the legacy of MAVA, stepping in at that brave moment when a few people thought that we were perhaps a little strange to tackle such a big challenge.
So, Holger, if MAVA hadn't existed then, how would the green economy narrative be different today?
That's a difficult question to answer, but it was already alluded to in different interventions before. And I would summarize it like bet and back. So betting on the new, interesting, promising ideas out there and backing them. Backing the people, individuals sometimes, two people just forming a new organization and just giving them the space and the capacity to think it through and develop the idea. And I think that has made a difference. And when we look now out there, the big organizations shaping the agenda on these different 3 issues, I would say there are quite a few out there that MAVA supported at very early stage. And I think it might look very different, or different, yeah, without.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Holger and Oliver. It was so great to see how the Huffman family's visions and funds were really the seed that planted many of the sustainable movements we see today. Thank you so much for joining us.